Hello and welcome to Maverick Workshop. In today's video I'm going to go over my process of doing a small production run of EDC Duraclick pens in the Stratified blanks. Let's get to it. Other than the bandsaw and my lathe you can see back here, this is how I set up my small production run. This is going to be a set of 5. I have all 5 kits along the 2x4 here, and then the brass tubes that go along with the kits themselves. I have the 5 different blanks that I'm going to be using for the kits. I have my drill bit for the kit, barrel trimmer, bushings, Jacob's chuck for holding the drill bit, turning tool, mandrel saver, 4-jaw chuck, and the CA glue and the hand drill for the barrel trimmer. So when I am setting up, if I have to paint the tubes, I like to have them set up on my little dowel rod tape setup kind of thing here. That way I can grab them by this tape at the bottom, and then I am able to paint them and then be able to take them off easily, and it also doesn't come down when I am handling it, and it keeps the paint away from my fingers. What I like to do from here is I'm going to take all of these tubes and measure them on the blanks, mark them, and then cut them down to the appropriate size. I'm going to drill the 8mm hole, and then we'll glue the tubes in and get to turning. They're all marked. Now it's time to take them over to the bandsaw and get them cut to where I marked, and I'll be back. Now that the blanks are all drilled, it's time to get these brass tubes glued in. And for that, I'm going to use medium mercury adhesive CA glue. And I have my paper towel to wipe my finger off every time I push the brass tube into the end of the blank. I forgot to say this earlier, but for organization's sake, you can assign the different blanks to the different rods, as well as the different blanks to the different kits, just by writing the corresponding number on each one of them. Something else that should be done is test fitting the brass tubes because they've been painted. Test fitting the brass tubes into the blanks to make sure that they do actually move all the way through. and have a little bit of space for the glue to be. Now let's get back to gluing. They're all glued now, and fortunately I was able to make it through all those with minimal glue on my fingers. There are other tools that you can use for inserting the brass tubes, but I typically don't have much trouble with getting a little bit of glue off of my fingertips. I just use a little piece of sandpaper, then kind of sand a little bit, not too much. You definitely don't want to sand your fingers too much. And this is obviously what I do, not suggesting that you do it, but it is a way to do it. So once I get that removed, then the next step for the pins is to move on to the barrel trimming. For the barrel trimming, I've got my hand drill, and I'm just going to drill the blank back to the brass tube. And so I'm going to be able to push straight down. I have the appropriate size barrel trimmer guide on here for the particular pin. An important note that when you're barrel trimming is you want to make sure that the barrel trimmer itself won't go all the way through. So you can see that the guide rod is shorter than the blank itself, so I don't really have much of a concern with putting my hand on the bottom of it. So when you are drilling out shorter brass tubes, you definitely don't want your hand on the back of it, so you can avoid drilling into your hand when it comes through. Now let's get to the rest of these. And now we're done. Got her mounted up, and we're ready to turn. So I'll say this one's pretty much about done. We are almost flush with the bushings, and it's got the relatively flat profile that I like, with a slight bulge here that I will take care of with sandpaper after I get the other 4 turned. All the turning is finished, and it is time to move on to sanding. And just a quick little note, when you're turning a lot of the same pin, it's nice to have a sanding set and a turning set of bushings. My sanding setup has gone through many iterations, but the setup that I have found that I like the most is I have a 240 in the big water bucket in the back, and then I have a 240 going all the way up to 2500. So 240, 320, 400, 600, 800, 1000, 2000, and 2500. Once I get through sanding, then I will move on to polishing with Magic Juice steps 1 through 6. And I will use a shop towel for the polishing, and I'll use a microfiber for drying off the material as I'm sanding through. The way I like to set up my lathe is by having a piece of cardboard to protect the ways, and with some paper towels to absorb the water drops from wet sanding. And from here I've got the first blank mounted that's turned down, and I've got my file here. I'm going to use the fine side and get all of the turning tool high points all leveled out as best as possible before moving on to wet sanding. Wet sanding I will sand at about 700. Everything feels flat, and now it's time to begin wet sanding. So this is after the sanding is now done. The next step is to polish it with the Magic Juice. Just finished up with the Magic Juice, and she is looking really nice. Get a closer look here in just a second. 1 down and 4 to go. Got all of these bad boys sanded and polished, and they are looking real good. The next step is to break open all of these little baggies and all the kit components, and then press them together. All the hardware's out of the bags. I'm going to keep the bags off to the side, that way I can use them to put the pin back in to help protect them. So I get my pin press, open it up, grab my first here, grab my first pin, grab my first pin blank here. I'm going to choose the side that I want the nib to go on, and then the click mechanism is going to go on the other side. So I'm going to go this side. So I have the grip section is going to go on about here. We'll go this side. Alright, we have it all lined up in the pen press. We're going to support it at the part where the connection goes into the brass tube and press it together. Very nice. Now we're going to get the pen clip. Take a look and see where the least interesting part is, or something that you want to cover up. Guess we'll go where the majority of that is. Back into the press. Make sure you got the clip right where you want it to be and support it. And then press that part together. Perfect. Now the final assembly, you're going to put the nib in, and that just screws in to the grip section. Then you take the ink refill and with the spring, that goes in, and then the Schmidt click mechanism. Just presses in and you screw it in. And you have the pen. I'm going to do this for the rest of them, and then I'll get some sweet glamour shots. And just like that, you have a small production run of 5 EDC Duraclick pens in stratified blanks. I'll do a close-up of each of these. That way you can see all the different colors. I appreciate you joining me today at Maverick Workshop. Hope you enjoyed seeing the process of my small production run of EDC Duraclick pens. And I will see you in the next one.